I'm joined today by Clayton Tucker, Democratic candidate for Ag Commissioner here in the state of Texas. Clayton, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, glad to be here, and hoping everyone's doing well after the icy weather.
Well, I guess, first of all, let's just take the time to let you introduce yourself to voters. Who are you and why are you running?
Sure. So my name is Clayton Tucker. I'm running for the Agriculture Commissioner, which you can think of as the Food Commissioner, because if it's related to food, land, or water, chances are I would be involved. I am a farmer from Lampasas, secretary of the Texas Farmers Union, and really just running to make food and farming affordable again for folks. Monopolies have really rigged the system, and we're definitely very concerned about AI coming in, particularly these data centers taking all of our water.
What has the campaigning been like? It's such a niche role, and a lot of times these down ballot races can just come down to who's got an R or a D next to their name. How do you make sure that you are getting the message out of who Clayton Tucker is directly to the voters?
Well, you know, we're running a real old-style populist grassroots campaign. Now, I've put about 40,000 miles on my truck so far. We've been to roughly 50, 60 counties. And we are just meeting folks where they are, talking with folks. I was on an AM radio show the other day and doing interviews like this and just meeting people out in the field, talking with folks and just really trying to build that grassroots base.
You kind of mentioned and joked about the food commissioner earlier, but when you're serving as Ag Commissioner, you are kind of representing a lot of the agriculture community, but of course, everyone is allowed to vote in this race. How do you balance talking to the agriculture community, talking to those farmers, while also trying to get everyone's votes, regardless of what sector they're in?
True. So with farmers in particular, look, since Reaganomics, since NAFTA, we've lost about 250,000 farms across the United States. In Texas, we lose one farm a week. And these are mostly family farms. These aren't the big corporate Wall Street owned farms. These are the family, been here for generation farms that are just going out of business. These monopolies, these corporate middlemen who've really rigged the whole system are the reason this is happening. And a lot of farmers know this. You know, I was out in Lubbock not too long ago, just going to co-ops, talking with folks there, a lot of cotton folks. And I mean, we're on the verge of losing all of Texas cotton. Because again, you know, we just allowed the system to be monopolized. Same with soy, same with corn, and now with beef. You know, Argentina gets $20–40 billion while farmers here get pennies. And with food folks inside the grocery store, you know, and I'm talking more of an urban audience, more of a suburban audience, say, look, these monopolies price gouge you as well. Because food's expensive right now, but it's not the farmers making the money, the farmers are going bankrupt. It's these corporate middlemen, these monopolies that are making all the money. So if you want affordable food, then we have to bust these monopolies, but also bring our agriculture back to Texas. We've offshored a lot of our agriculture.
You mentioned Argentina and beef, and I think it's something that all Texas farmers are thinking about right now. How do we bolster Texas's beef production, and how do we make sure that Texas's beef cattle ranchers are being protected? What is your plan in order to be able to bolster Texas beef?
Well, it's not just beef, but we'll use beef as a good example. So with a lot of these free trade deals, NAFTA, now called the USMCA, they destroyed family farms. They destroyed them in Texas, in Mexico, and the Americas. And that offshored not just our manufacturing, which we all know, you know, our factories and manufacturing jobs went overseas. Not too many folks know that it did the same to our agriculture. So we are going to be looking to passing policies. One policy, for instance, that anything served at Texas schools has to be from Texas farmers, from Texas ranchers, and ideally processed by Texans as well. Now, we can make exceptions for like pineapples and things we can't grow en masse here. But overall, Texas used to grow our own food. We used to be self-sufficient. We're now net importer. So we're going to be working to change laws within the Texas Department of Ag, but also lobbying with the USDA, with other in the federal government and other state agencies to really reshore all of our agriculture. Because if we can do that, that helps ranchers, that helps vegetable growers, that helps literally all Texans.
And just following up on that beef thing, because one of the biggest issues coming out of the Agriculture Commissioner's Department in the last year has been this growing threat of the New World screwworm that could just decimate our beef populations as it's currently right along our border. How would you address that threat?
Well, it should have been addressed several years ago. So basically, look, we've been through this before. We've had the screwworm. The screwworm is native here, but we created a way to get rid of them. And then again, monopolies do what monopolies do. We let Panama monopolize all of that. We used to have facilities here to keep screwworms away, but then we let one corporation down in Panama monopolize all of it. We are building facilities here to combat them again, and we know exactly how to beat them. It's not hard to beat them, but it's going to take a year or two to get that facility up and running. And my concern is all these feral hogs, the screwworms, they don't just go for cattle, they'll go for anything, including the hogs. So the hogs could be what really takes it, not just in Texas, but everywhere.
So one of the interesting things about your candidacy is you are a Democrat. It's no secret that Democrats have not been very popular with Texas voters. It's been 3 decades now since any Democrat has won a statewide office. And then you add that on to talking about ag commissioner, and I think there is certainly a stereotype, whether true or not, about rural farmers leaning more towards the Republican Party. How do you plan on reaching out to those voters across all of Texas and try to break that 30-year spell that the Democrats have had?
Well, the Texas Democrats are changing quite a bit. I would say the Texas Democrats are getting to their true roots, their historic roots, their populist roots. I mean, look at the new chairman, Chair Kendall Scudder. You know, he's really leading the Democrats back to the way the Democrats, economically speaking, used to be. This anti-corporation, this anti-monopoly, this really economic populism. And a lot of the farmers I talk to, are they socially conservative? Are they socially traditionalist? Sure, there are a lot of people who are that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they are very economically populist. And the Democratic Party in Texas is heading that way. Hopefully the National Party starts figuring out and reads the writing on the wall and follows us where we're going on this.
A lot of headlines happened last week coming from the other side of this race, the primary on the Republican side with incumbent Sid Miller, his opponent Nate Sheets getting endorsed by Governor Greg Abbott. How much are you paying attention to what's happening in this Republican primary right now, as you are likely going to have to go ahead against one of these candidates in the general?
Well, as a farmer, I don't count my chickens, and I don't think anyone else should count their chickens until they hatch. So we'll see exactly what happens. We're paying close attention to it. But the point is that a lot of farmers, a lot of folks in agriculture really do not like our current commissioner, Sid Miller. I heard a joke from a number of farmers and a number of ranchers that if only folks in agriculture voted for this, Sid would never win, that even a Democrat would beat them. And I've actually been told that there's a number of folks who have never voted in any Democratic, at least not since 2 or 3 decades ago, that say if Sid is the person that they'll probably vote for me.
And then just to wrap up here, agriculture is one of the most important topics in the state, but it's also one of the ones that gets the least attention. It's not the headline-grabbing role among the state. How do you make ordinary Texans care about agriculture?
Their grocery bills. Well, the state of agriculture directly affects how much you pay at the grocery store. And bills are through the roof. Everything's getting more expensive. Meat, beef, vegetables, literally everything. And I am the candidate whose main job is to make food affordable again, to make your grocery bills go down, and to make sure that we can continue having an agriculture sector here in Texas. Again, monopolies are rigging the system. They're destroying a lot of agriculture. They're the ones who are price gouging you at the grocery store. They're the ones that are driving family farms out of business. Also, a lot of these data centers, they're the ones that are taking all of our water. They're in some states, electricity bills doubled where they built them, like near Virginia, up 70%. Water bills ran dry. This is about affordability because right now food is really expensive. Food is too expensive. Utility bills could be heading that same way within a year. And we are entirely focused, me and this whole campaign, on just making sure that life itself is affordable. And the 2 pieces we have direct control over is food, and we can put a pause on these data centers to keep our utilities affordable as well.
Speaking of data centers, that is something I think we missed in this interview earlier. What would be your plan to address the data centers? Obviously, they're coming in full force here in the Lone Star State.
Yeah, they're coming to mess with Texas, full stop. They're not for the, maybe one of them is for the community. I've heard of one that's actually, in my opinion, is doing a good job of working with the community. But 1 out of 500 is not a very good track record, in my opinion. we will be issuing what's called ag impact studies on these centers to really put a pause. And we have been in contact with a lot of local groups, a lot of community organizing groups. And these groups are nonpartisan, they're honestly bipartisan. And we're going to be working with them to really make sure that if a data center does come to Texas, that it doesn't mess with Texas.
Well, Mr. Tucker, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else you want to say? Last word's yours.
Sure. Just, if anyone wants to learn more, you can go to my website, claytontuckertx.com. We do something a little bit different on the campaign. All of our issues are petitions, so people can share their stories. For instance, someone in Abilene signed one of our petitions about stopping the data center, and they talked about the data center being built out there, their personal experience. I love knowing those personal experiences, so if anyone would like to share theirs, they can go to our website to learn more. And we're just really running to return populism back to Texas politics.
Well, Mr. Tucker, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.